Hi, hello, and namaste. I'm Yugen Damang, and welcome to the brand new episode of the Startup Show, which is a proud presentation of AIC SMU TBI Foundation, that is an Atal Incubation Center, Sikkim University Technology Business Incubation Foundation, located at Majita, nearby Rampu, and the show has been powered by the Sikkim Chronicle. आज पनि हामी तपाईँहरूसँग यस्ता फाउन्डर्सहरूसँग तपाईँहरूको मिन्स तपाईँहरूको अगाडि हामी ती फाउन्डर्सहरू राखिरहेका छौँ जसले कहीँ न कहीँ गएर कतिजनालाई इन्सपायर र मोटिभेट गर्ने काम गरिरहनु भएको छ र आज हामीसँग पनि भर्चुअल कन्भर्सेसनमा हुनुहुन्छ दि फाउन्डर अफ अ स्टार्टअप नोन एज दि O8 Blue Sky Logistic Private Limited र दुईजना फाउन्डर्स हामीले जोइन गरिरहनु भएको छ उहाँ हुनुहुन्छ मिस्टर सन्दीप बासु र अविक राकिब र बेसिकली उहाँको स्टार्टअपको कुरा गर्नु पर्दाखेरि चाहिँ is working in providing a differentiated mobility solution based on electric vehicles for the Indian urban and suburban markets. So this looks quite interesting. So let's welcome in this virtual conversation, Mr. Sandeep Basu and Avik Rashid. So, Mr. Sandeep and Mr. Avik, so welcome to the Startup Show.
Thank you. Thank you for inviting us.
Okay, so let's get to the point straight ahead, because I just went through the, the startup summary or the brief that you sent me across. And when we talk about the, the startup basically working with the electric vehicles, that sounds so exciting and intriguing to me. So we'll be talking about that, of course. So first of all, I really want to go out with knowing about the, the inception, the ideation, then when did you start and what are the backgrounds of the founders? Yeah. Any one of you, yeah, you can go ahead.
You want to start first, Sandeep?
Yeah, I will start. When the first lockdown came in 2020 March, so we had a lot of time. So me and Avik were having a virtual coffee session. So thinking what we need to do and what are the opportunities. And obviously me and Avik, we go back almost 25 years. Okay, studying together and working in different countries all across the world. So we have been best of buddies and we wanted to do something new, something exciting. So then Avik came up with the concept of electric cars, and electric cars were in vogue and new models were coming out. And then we started looking at how we can use electric cars, as a fleet aggregating model, which is beneficial not only for the companies who own the electric vehicle, but also as a the social structure, how it can be changed and how we can improve people's life. Okay, and then we did have an idea, how other aggregators work and what are the challenges they face and what the drivers go through. So we started discussing on that, and then we slowly started to get a team together. I mean, most of the people who are on the team are, we have been worked together, we have been friends for long, and then we started putting the team and the idea conception started with what is an electric car, how we can use it, what are the advantages, where the benefits are we can derive, and more importantly, what are the challenges and the roadblocks that we are facing currently and we will face in the future moving forward.
So basically, you want to add up something on Mr. Avik?
Yeah, so I think one of the key issues was Sandeep and I we did a trip into Sikkim and the mountains, and we realized one thing. Our mountains are very beautiful, and especially Sikkim, they're very focused on being a clean and green state. However, in the mornings, there's definitely a distinct smell of diesel in the air.
Okay.
And that was probably our clincher to say that we really want to focus on the mountains of India, because the challenge is the air doesn't necessarily rise up and clear out like in the plains. While there's pollution everywhere in India, the pollution, let's say, stays longer in the valleys, right? And so therefore our idea was to focus on the mountain markets.
Yeah.
Okay. But essentially, our entire business model is focused on using electric car, but to hopefully improve the health of the citizens and reduce the pollution. That is a primary goal. Yes.
Okay. So if I talk about particularly about the entrepreneurship in the startup, which stage are you in right now? Which stage are you in, guys, right
Okay. I think our first set of cars will be coming next within this month.
now?
They're supposed to come. One is supposed to come next week, but
Okay.
there's a very long waiting list of electric cars.
Mm-hmm.
So we're hoping we can deploy at least one next week, but that will be our prototype. So I
Okay.
would consider it still very much a prototyping stage. So we're
Mm-hmm.
past the ideation stage. We've done a
Mm-hmm.
lot. We've done some testing. I wouldn't say a lot of testing,
Mm-hmm.
but it's now going into advanced testing, and so just before market rollout, you can say.
Yeah. Okay. So basically, this entire conversation will be watched basically by the people of the Himalayan region, because as far as the outreach is concerned. So you said that when you came back to Sikkim, and that is how you got inspired, Mr. Abik, about why not,
Yes.
right? So, but when it comes to electric vehicles, or in terms of the mode of the electric, methods of transportation, there are a lot of startups who are actually working on the electric
Yes.
vehicles as such. So if I really want to know what is your uniqueness in your terms of startup, what is the USP of your startup? That is what I really want you to highlight.
Yeah, I think that there are a couple of issues. One is we our entire target is four-wheelers to start with. So four-wheelers for taxi purposes or mainly for tourist purposes.
Mhm.
Okay.
Okay.
That is for two reasons, which nobody's doing this. So while there are a lot of, there's 240 EV startups in India today,
Mhm.
everybody's looking at the cities, the big cities of
Mhm.
India.
Mhm.
Everybody's focused on, probably the easiest place to be.
Mhm.
Our strategy is very different. We want to start off with the rural areas, because I think that's where the pollution has a lot more effect on the people, because the hospital facilities, medical facilities are much better in the bigger cities in India, right? So
Mhm.
if we can make an impact there, we believe that our social impact will be much higher. That's obviously the first reason. The second reason, in terms of the USP, is I think there's another reason that why we chose these markets is these markets are not going to be focused with anybody right now. And then there's a final bit that in an electric vehicle is a far more expensive vehicle than a normal petrol or diesel vehicle.
Mhm.
But in the mountains, there's a particular aspect that allows for, let's say, a significant advantage, because the electric vehicle manages to regenerate some of the energy of the battery when it goes downhill.
Mhm.
Okay. And that
Okay.
actually assists in terms of the operations and revenue, which you don't get in the planes
Okay.
as much. Okay.
Okay. Would you like to add
And
up
also
anything,
like
Mr. Basu? Yeah.
yeah, and also like let's say if you take the case of like Sikkim, Darjeeling, these areas, okay. I mean these are the areas can only be accessed by road. There's no other
Mhm.
mode of communication,
Yeah.
transportation that can go up there. Okay. You've got a small airport, but still the airport is about 2.5 hours drive from the main city of Gangtok.
Mhm.
And when you go up there, and especially like when we say about the health and the smell of diesel, okay, people might think that okay the air is fresh. It is not, and that over a period of time, that affects the health of the locals who are staying there. Like
Mhm.
some of the reports that we read, okay, like Sikkim has the most, the highest percentage of asthma patient there because of the air quality.
Mhm.
Okay, so
Mhm.
our business was okay, fine. We want to come into a business, a new generation business, a new tech business, but how it is going to help the people there, local
Mhm.
people? Okay, I do agree. Right now, if we put in 100 cars, it's not going to help much. Okay,
Mhm.
but when once 100 cars comes in, the people of Sikkim will understand and look at the benefit of an EV, and then they themselves will go into an EV. Would like to
Okay.
have an EV instead of petrol car. Okay, and then
Mhm.
say in another 15, 20 years, maybe the 50% or maybe 60 to 70% of the car population will be an EV car. And then you will start seeing in another 20 years the air quality improving
Mhm.
in the state.
Okay. So I would really want to know, because since you were basically talking about Sikkim, and then about the benefits of actually having an EV. So which state are you going to launch? Because as far as the summary is concerned, I just went through it, and then you are coming up with a prototype and still in the testing stage as such. So now you'll be coming up with the the entire EV in the market. So which state are you really looking forward to launch first, and how do you want to go ahead with it?
I mean, the idea
Okay.
came from Sikkim, so Sikkim is the first state that we are going to launch.
I'm
We
glad.
will be
I'm glad
launching
that
in Sikkim.
actually, I'm glad the interview is happening on Sikkim Chronicle, because I'm sure a lot of people would really want to know
It
about
will
it.
be
Yeah.
it, it will be in Sikkim first.
Okay. One more thing, what really got into my head is like, since it's an EV, because most of the people, the general public, because when it comes to the product has to be taken to the market, and it's up to the people how they're going to accept it or they consume it as well. So when you talk of the product, so how affordable will the EV be? Because, I get the point. You're talking about the health benefits, the environmental benefits as such, everything as such. But when it comes to the consumer actually accepting the product, so how affordable will that EV be? I really want you guys to talk about that.
Okay, so the price level will be the same for the end consumer. The price level will be the same as a normal petrol, diesel car that they use going up and down Siliguri to Gangtok, or traveling in and around Gangtok. So exactly the same level. We will be competitive with petrol. Okay, or diesel. We're not going to be much more expensive, but more importantly, and this is what's very important, our drivers will have a higher take-home salary, significantly higher
Okay.
than the regular drivers today driving a petrol or diesel car. Because that was, our focus was, it has to have social benefit. If there's no social benefit, what's the point of doing it, right? So one is the environment aspect of it. And the second thing is, if the drivers see better take-home salary, then I think a lot of drivers will want to come into our program, voluntarily.
Okay. Okay.
Right.
Sounds good. Yeah. So apart from that, so when it comes to now as an entrepreneur, when it comes to, I got the branding idea, how are going to brand yourself in the market. So, but when it comes to the market,
We haven't thought about it yet, but we're getting there. Yeah.
But no, but as a media conversation, I can really get how are you going to brand it in the market. But like, because you are introducing it to the Himalayan state, and people would maybe like want to really go forward with the EV and all. But are you trying to go for any collaborations, or in terms of get connection with the government agencies to reach out to the mass as such? How do you go? How do you want to go ahead with?
So we are looking at trying to tie up with some NGOs from the government of India that are specifically active. One is called the Shakti Foundation, specifically active in trying to educate the masses, and if necessary, provide training and provide training of driving also the cars. And so we're trying to tie up with them to do something with the government there. Now, in Sikkim itself, we have also spoken to Seed, your entrepreneur foundation, right? There are a lot of skilling happens over there. Then we are looking at tying up with the government, because we need, obviously, the government's help the basic challenge in Sikkim is parking. Parking is a big issue for everybody, right? And that's the same in any mountain state in India, right? Any mountain place in India is parking is a challenge. And in these cars, the big problem is that we need parking because they need to be charged overnight, the cars. Right. So therefore, parking becomes imperative. So we will be working in close coordination with the government. We've actually we've made some representations of what we're planning to do to the government, and they seem to be open to the idea. We made some presentations earlier last year, but because of COVID, we obviously didn't start last year. So now we are tentatively like going back into, hopefully that this time COVID won't be too bad and we can start.
Yeah. Mr. Basu, would you like to add up anything?
The thing is that at any stage and anywhere you want to go or do a program, you need the government and the society to help you. Okay, they need to be partners in the business. Okay, in both for success, and if there is a failure, then you are also partner to that. So then from the failures, you understand what exactly went wrong. Okay, so looking on all these things, what we have decided is that our program would be like, we need to train the drivers better in terms of driving skill. Okay, So we are like Avik mentioned that we're talking with Seed. So we would like to open up, a specific, a driver program, so
Mm-hmm.
the drivers can learn how to drive EV cars, because
Yeah.
there is a particular, skill set that is needed to drive an EV cars to get the maximum benefit out of it. You got to
Yes.
understand how the car is performing and
Mm-hmm.
how you need to do it. I
Mm-hmm.
mean, why we want to do it is that, okay, first of all, we would like to, the drivers that are going to operate in Sikkim, they need to know how to drive that in the mountains and get a better
Point.
handling of the car. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
And also, in another 5 to 6 years, like the way the government is going, the both the centrals and the state governments are going, there are going to be much more EVs in different part of the country. So
Mm-hmm.
the drivers who are getting trained in Sikkim at the institute through a training program, which
Mm-hmm.
is, then they have a different, another level of skill set compared to the other other drivers in the country, and they
Mm-hmm.
can go. I mean, like you see, the corporates will soon start, deploying their own EVs. So
Yeah.
any driver, let's say from Sikkim, wants to move to say Hyderabad or Bangalore to look for a better job, better opportunity.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. And he goes to any of the multinational software companies and says that I know how to drive an EV car. I have been trained there. So
Mm-hmm.
he just jumps the queue in terms of, a better skilled person joining that organization. So
Mm-hmm.
this is how we want, not only have a very good business, but also, to develop the people of the soil who are there and
Yeah.
how they can benefit. If they even move out from Sikkim, I mean, they can say that we know how to drive an EV car.
So basically, you're trying to say that you are going to collaborate with the agencies in the state to actually do a lot of
Yes,
skill training for the drivers. Sounds really good,
yes,
and I look forward that this, the venture of the startup of yours open up opportunities for a lot of, people who really want to plunge into the startup or the venture, the space.
yeah, we want
So
them.
yeah, so let's talk about, like, basically I wanted to make this conversation very, very brief. I'll just have few more questions. Like, let's talk about the challenges and the struggle, as a startup, because you have the idea in your mind, but I'm dead sure there might be a lot of struggle and challenges. How have you been coping up with those so far? And what about the finances when we talk about as a startup? Because I know a lot of startup struggles, to have a seed fund and then to go out with a lot of investment. And so let's talk about that briefly. Yeah, Mr. Abid.
Okay. So we've been lucky in the sense that we've recently won a HDFC grant because they really liked our business idea.
Mm-hmm.
So that's obviously a seed grant. I believe we're incubated with Sikkim Manipal Institute of Technology. They will be helping us with some debentures and capital. Is it enough? No, obviously financing is always a challenge, but I think it's enough to get to certain stages in the business, right? And then, from there on, as we get mass, we obviously have to look for outside capital, venture capitalists, angel capital, whatever the case may be. It depends on how we progress, obviously. Now, the other challenges has been COVID has been a terrible challenge. And COVID has kept us on tenterhooks because, in Sikkim, we're very focused, obviously, on the tourism business. So if the state boundaries are closed, the cars can't go back and forth. If the cars can't go back and forth, the drivers aren't earning revenue, companies not earning revenue, etc., etc. So because of that, we obviously had to delay our plans by 1 year. Because it didn't make sense for us to jump in and go bankrupt in 3 months because the state's locked down, right?
Yeah.
So that's been but the good thing about that time is it's allowed us to continually reassess the business, keep refining the business plan, and making sure that now what we feel that we're ready to actually go. But another big challenge is the availability of cars. So we are using, the cars from the market that's available now. In India, there's not that many choice. There's not many choices of electric cars. So we are very limited with the choice. And not only is the choice limited, the waiting periods are even higher, right? I mean, for example, the cars that we're looking at, 6 to 9 months is the waiting period. So you can imagine just the rolling out of volume is going to take a very long time. And, in any business like this, you need volume. Otherwise, it's very hard to break even. So this is obviously one set of challenges. The other set of challenges is going to be the other thing I mentioned to you is the actual parking areas in Sikkim. So that we are hoping to work with governments, civil society, whatever assistance that we can get when we're on the ground. To hopefully figure out how to solve those problems. There's another one area because it's electric car. It needs power. They need electric connections. So getting the right type of electric connections in the right places in Sikkim is going to be critical, right? So these are the learning curves that we will have whilst our prototyping stage and as well as our initial rollout. And these are challenges you have to face when you're on the ground there, which we plan to be on later this month.
So it sounds really interesting, and like I'm glad that you have chosen Sikkim because it's a tiny state, and maybe like if you go with the right people or the agencies around, it should be quite easy for you to launch it to the state of Sikkim. So best wishes for that as well. So apart from that, now we have talked about the challenges, and are you really looking for more investment in future? Like, are you looking for investors?
I think
Yes, but
any startup sooner or later will need capital. Right now, I think we have a theoretical validation of the business plan from a company like HDFC. Being India's largest private sector bank is a big boost for us. But ultimately, it's going to be what happens on the ground, right? Just like I said, we want to be competitive with the market with petrol and diesel. Otherwise, people won't pay, right? People are not going to pay extra 1,000 rupees to go up and down Sikkim, right? If they don't have to. So, we need to test that business model, make sure that works. Once, we refine that further, then yes, obviously at some point we need to really expand, we would need more capital, yes.
So where is your base when we talk about the production or the manufacturing? Like, where is your particular base?
Okay, so we are not manufacturing. We are buying cars that are already available in the market.
All right.
It's more the deployment of the service, right? So it's a service we're going to be providing. But it's taking different parts and putting it together and getting it actually on the ground and convincing people that this is something that people should be using, right? It's one thing about people having heard about EVs in the rest of the country, but in our tier 2, tier 3 rural areas, people don't think about it, right? Because it's not at the top of their heads. And I think the biggest issue is it's the lack of education, because one of the things people are always worried about with the EV is, oh my God, it might run out of petrol, or range. In electric cars, it's range, right? And especially in a place like Sikkim where it's mountains, you don't want to run out in the middle of the mountain in the middle of the night with no power, right? Because then you're in a bit of a soup. So these are the things that we need to test. And once we test and we have a program, what works and what doesn't work, we can educate the people, because without education, nothing new can really be adopted. And we don't see anybody else coming and working in the mountains to do this. So we feel in that sense, we are a USP in the sense that there won't be anybody quickly who's going to do that, because the market's not big enough. Because like I said, any business like this needs volume.
Yeah, because gradually when I see in the market in the state of Sikkim, people are now actually buying electric bicycles, electric bikes in the state of Sikkim. So I see a lot of opportunity ahead. And the way you are putting up things forward in this conversation, it sounds a task, but not impossible. So
not impossible, but startups have to be a little bit impossible, right? Otherwise, it's not a startup.
Yeah. Okay. So, Mr. Basu, I really want to know. I just have two questions now. Where do you see yourself as an entrepreneur, both of you, and as a startup founder in the next? I don't want to take it for the 5 years. Just give me in the next 3 years. Where do you see yourself?
In the next 3 years, okay. In the next 3 years, that's a pretty long time. But in a startup, that's also a very, very short time, just about 1,000 days. Okay. So in the next 3 years, what we are planning to do is that we should be into at least 3 to 4 mountain regions, mainly in the northeast. Okay. Because we want to, because that is a market that is completely untapped. Okay, and there's a lot of opportunities there for entrepreneurs like us, and also for the local people to take on the new technology and provide better services in the travel industry. And in the next 3 years, we look to have Not, I mean, at least we would be very happy to see in the next 3 years, like, at least 20% of the taxis that are going up and down between
Hmm.
traveling between Sikkim and Bagdogra and NGP,
Hmm.
20% of the taxis or the cars that are going are EVs. I mean, that will really make us proud.
Yeah. Sounds really good. So, okay, now this is something which I wanted to know because since you guys have been incubated on the AICSMB TBI Foundation, so how has been the learning? How has been the learning and the support so far?
Okay.
It
So
has
far,
been
yeah, go ahead,
amazing,
son.
I would say. It has been amazing. I mean, like if you take, the support that has been provided by Dr. Tej and Mr.
Hmm.
Pankaj there. I mean, since we are not from Sikkim, okay,
Hmm.
we are from Calcutta, and we just went there to visit, and we liked the place, and we wanted to do. And they have been, giving us, the local insight and local information, what needs
Hmm.
to be done and what you need to do. I mean, like specifically like Sikkim, there is a specific one challenge. Like you cannot do any setup or set up any companies there because of the
Fine.
restriction and the government policies. Okay,
Yeah.
so Dr. Tej and Mr. Pankaj, they did guide us what needs to be done and what they can do and what all, and
Hmm.
also guiding us in terms of the various programs that are available from the state, from the government of India and other various agencies, what we should
Hmm.
be looking at and how we should be rolling it out, and also like letting us know what support we need,
Hmm.
anything that comes to our mind which they cannot think of as of right now. So
Yeah.
they're willing to provide us all the facilities and everything that is there.
Hmm.
Avik, you were adding something. Sorry, I just stepped in
Yeah,
at
I
that
think,
moment.
well, one of our challenges, I mean, they've been superlative. There's nothing else to say, but, it's a great setup over there. I think more importantly is the knowledge base of our colleagues and Dr. Tej in particular and Mr. Anand is fantastic. The only thing we miss, I think, is we probably would have been able to get even more had we actually been on site, which we haven't been yet. But we will
Hmm.
be starting from later this week, next week actually. So I think there's a lot to learn from them. I think they're a
Yeah.
great institution, and I would recommend anybody who's thinking of doing anything in Sikkim to incubate over there. I think that they're a great asset.
Yeah,
Exactly.
means the incubation is completely premier because the way things are turning up as well infrastructure wise and the support and the learnings has been really good from AICS and the TBI. And then congratulations because I wanted to make this in fact I wanted to make this conversation very brief, but I was really looking forward to have this physical conversation and do your interview. But like yeah, we turn out to be virtual, but like nevertheless in future I'm really looking forward to have a physical meet and do the conversation because since this is so exciting and intriguing to know that you guys are launching your EVs in the state of Sikkim at the way to go ahead. And so yeah, so congratulations for that and best wishes. So before I end up this conversation, Mr. Abik and Mr. Basu, since you are now launching the EV very soon, so any message to the viewers of Sikkim Chronicle who might be watching you right now and might be also drawing some inspiration and motivation when it comes to entrepreneurship? Yeah, the last one from you guys.
Um, all I can say from my side is that hopefully your viewers get to see our cars. I would really request them to try out our cars. As I said, we're not going to be anything more expensive than what they're used to paying. So
Hmm.
that's the only thing I'd wish, and to give us a chance. That's all.
Yeah, Mr.
And I
Basu.
would like to add something. Like anybody who wants to become an entrepreneur, so like us, we wanted to become an entrepreneur. Uh, First of all, believe in your dream. Don't give it up. Okay.
Hmm.
If you believe, then others will start believing it. Okay. And secondly, when you are a startup, it's always like that the question comes is that where I'm going to get the money, who's going to give me the money, where I'm going to get the start. Okay, believe me, nobody is going to help you. You have to believe it, and first of all, and then you see there are a lot of programs, there are a lot of policies. Okay, go and look for them as per your
Hmm.
business. There are things there. If you are passionate about your vision, you will find something there that will help you. We did. I mean, through Startup India, coming to SMU BIT, and we started a journey. Just googling it, and we came here. So everybody can do that. Just
Yeah,
go for it.
yeah. Sounds good. So once again, congratulations for the wonderful startup, and I'm really looking forward to have the EVs run on the roads of the Himalayan state of Sikkim. And apart from them, all the best for whatever venture you're doing it right now. Apart from the startup and as well as others. Thank you so much, guys, for joining. Mr.
Thank you.
Basu and Mr. Avik for joining into the startup show. Thank you so much.
Thank you,
Thanks.
Mr. Tamak.